Hey, what's up everyone? So in this video, we are going to cover authentication using React and Redux Toolkit, and we will be consuming backend APIs which we created using Node.js, Express, and MongoDB on the part 1 of this two parts series. So if you like the content in this video, please remember to leave a thumbs up and also support my channel by subscribing. Let's see the demo of the application next. So in this video, I'll be showing you how to add authentication to this simple online shop using React and Redux Toolkit. So how this will work is that once we add items to our cart, where we can increase item cart quantity or even remove items from cart and calculate the subtotal. So before we check out this particular subtotal, we will have to log in for us to proceed. So right here, you will see that we have login to check out. Once I click login to check out, we are redirected to the login route where we have the login form. And now from here, we can be able to log in. And if I try to click login without entering any credentials, then we get email is not allowed to be empty. So we have some basic data validation happening here, and this data validation is happening on the backend. But we already covered the backend on the first part of this two-part series. And the backend, we build the login API and the registration API using Express, MongoDB, Node.js, and also JWT. So I'll leave a link to that particular video at the description section below. And also, if you wish to learn how to create this particular simple online shop, I have a complete series here on YouTube where we created the complete shopping cart using React and Redux Toolkit. So you can watch through this to create that particular shopping cart. But if you are interested only in the authentication part of it, you don't need to worry about all these videos. All I'll recommend is for you to watch this first part, where I'll also have given you access to the source code for the shopping cart so that you won't have to create it. So all you will do is that you'll start from this part 1 of the authentication, and then you'll create the backend using Node.js, Express, and MongoDB. And then after that, you'll be able to now come to this video and be able to consume those backend APIs using React and Redux Toolkit. So I want to be clear. If you don't want to create the shopping cart, you can just start from this part 1 of the authentication part of it. But if you are interested to create this shopping cart and learn more about React and Redux Toolkit, then I'll also leave a link at the description section below. Okay, cool. So let's proceed with this demo. Now right here, if I enter the correct email, let's say chao@gmail.com, now I can be able to also enter the password. That is the correct password, but if I add another letter to make it the wrong password and try to log in, then I get invalid email or password. But let me use the correct password and then log in. We are logged in, and now right here you can see we have checkout. Now another thing is that I haven't completed this checkout part of it. So if you want me to show you how to process payment using Stripe, then like this video, and if we get more than 100 likes on this particular video and also on the last video, that is part 1 of authentication, then I'll show you how to process payments using Stripe. Also leave a comment because it's good for algorithm, and subscribe to support my content, and also you can check out other content in my channel. Okay, now the other thing is that we are protecting the login and the registration routes such that once we are logged in, we cannot be able to access the login form. So if I try to go to the login route, then we can't. We are redirected to cart. But once we log out, right here we get back to login to checkout, and now we can be able to actually go to the login route. So if I hit enter, now we have this login route. And also we have the registration part of it where we can actually create new accounts. Now the next thing that we are going to do is that we will upgrade our React Router DOM to version 6. since this online shop is using version 5, so when I created this shopping cart, version 6 was not out, and you can see in this second video at this particular series is where we were adding React Router DOM, and this is version 5. So the next thing, we are going to upgrade to version 6. So right here at the code, we already covered the backend in the first part, and now this second part we are covering the front end, but I still need to like start all of them. So I'll open the terminal and I'll cd into backend, and then from the backend I'll just run nodemon. Okay, so that will serve our backend, and MongoDB is connected. Now right here, I think I can use this one to add a new terminal, and I'll cd into front end, and from the front end I'll say npm start, and this will start our front end. So it's starting, and there we go. So I'll close this one actually, so that we remain with this one. Now, as you can see from this one, we don't have the logging route, we don't have the registration routes. So before we add those routes, let's upgrade to version 6 of React Router DOM. So the first thing is to install version 6. So here is the command, npm install React Router DOM at 6. So I'll just copy this command, copy, then I'll come to front end, and if we check at package.json file here, you will see that React Router DOM here is version 5, so we want to upgrade it. So what I'll do, I'll open a new terminal here, and I'll cd into front end, and then I'll paste that command, npm install react-router-dom at 6. Hit enter to install. Now as that installs, I'll close this package.json file, and then on the front end I'll open the src folder, and I will go to app.js. So this is where we were setting up React Router DOM, okay, and therefore this is where we will start making the changes. So first of all, in version 6 we don't have switch, and also we don't have redirect. So I'll remove those, and what we have is routes. Okay, instead of switch we will be having routes. So I'll import routes from React Router DOM, and then now down here, instead of switch we will replace that with routes, and then for each route right here we will have a path, and instead of component what we will have is element. So instead of component we will have element, and instead of component we will have element, instead of component we will have element. So these are the changes that are in version 6. Now I think I can arrange these routes nicely so that home starts and then the rest follow. Another thing is that instead of calling these home like this, we should call them as components like this. So I include the opening and those closing tags. So we should do this. Okay, now right here, instead of redirect again, I'll say route. So if a route is not found, then this will be the one that will be used. Now I think this is all. Browser router remains like that, the rest remain like that. So first of all, I'll save this, and then I'll go to components, and I'll go to let's say home, and see what we have here. So from home you can see we are importing use history, but use history is no longer available in version 6. So what I'll make use of is use navigate. So instead of use history, now we have use navigate. It's already suggested. And now right here, instead of use history, we will have use navigate. We invoke it, and now right here we can say const navigate. Okay, and then now when we add an item to cart, we were pushing the user to the cart, but now instead of history.push, we will just call navigate, just like that. Okay, and then I'll save. So let's test this out and see if we have any errors. So I'll come to our cart here, and look, attempted import error, routes is not exported. Let's check at the import. app.js. Did I mess the spelling or anything? This should be working actually, since we already upgraded. Let me come to our terminal here for the front end, and then what I'll do, I will just right stop it using Ctrl+C, and I'll start it again, npm start, and see if that error will disappear. Fingers crossed. Yeah, because I don't see any issue with it. So let me close this one and see if we get that error still. So look, the error disappeared because yeah, that was correct. So now let's add this to cart. We are directed to cart. What else? Let's continue shopping. Okay, cool. Everything else is working okay. That is it about upgrading to React Router version 6. And now the next thing that we will do is that we will create our auth slice. And you can think of a slice as a piece of store. So it's like a piece of state in our Redux store. So in our slices here, I'll just create a new file and I'll call this one auth slice.js. And then inside this auth slice, in order to create a slice, we'll need to import the create slice function from Redux Toolkit. So right here we will import, we will destructure create slice, and this will come from @Redux Toolkit. We can say let our const auth slice be equal to, now we invoke this function create slice, and it will accept an object in here, and now this object accepts several key and value pairs, and the first one is name. So we will give our slice here a name and we will call it auth. And then the other one is initial state. So right here I can say initial state, but we should define this particular object at the top here. So at the top here, I'll say const initial state will be equal to an object, and we pass initial state for our authentication. So the first thing that we will need for our state is a token, and initially we will be reading this token from the local storage, okay, for persistency. So we will be storing this token to the local storage, and when we initially load the state, we will check our local storage and see if there is a token. So right here I'll just say local storage. So this is a built-in JavaScript object which we can use to work with the local storage, and it has a method called getItem, and what we will get from the local storage is a token. So when adding the token to the local storage, we will give it a key called token, and therefore we can use that key to access it. Cool. Now that is the first thing. The second thing, we will want to have a name for the currently logged in user. We will want to have the email of the currently logged in user. We will also need to have the ID of the currently logged in user, and we will be getting these properties from our token. Remember, our token has this data as payload, okay? Another cool thing with Redux Toolkit, we can use it to track the status of our different actions that we'll be performing. For example, we will have register here, status, and now these register status will either be pending, fulfilled, or rejected. Okay, so we will use this to track whether we have an error when we make a request, and then if we have an error, we can show that error to the user. And again, now we can be able to store the error in another piece of state. So that will be now register error, like that. So what we will do, if the status here is rejected, then we will get the error from our response and we will store it in register error. Pretty nice. Now we will also do the same for login. So I'll duplicate this, and instead of register, I'll Control D once and then I'll say login to edit twice. And now right here I can include a comma like that. And one last thing is that I'll track whether the user is already loaded or not. So I'll also have loaded as false to be the initial state. Okay, cool. Back to this. We have said const auth to be equal to create thrice, and we have passed the name here to be auth, and then now we are passing this object as the initial state right here. Okay. Now, another thing that we will be having here is our reducers. And now, another cool thing with Redux Toolkit, we will be creating a reducer, and at the same time, an action creator will be automatically be generated for us by Redux Toolkit. So we'll see how that will work out, okay? And then for async actions, like we will be having action creators that are fetching data from the backend or posting data to the backend. In that case, we will handle their state in what we call extra reducers. So for this one, we don't have any like HTTP request, but when we have HTTP request, action creator that have HTTP request, then we will make use of extra reducers right here, okay, to handle their state. So we will see how these two will work out as well. For now, I just want us to have that general structure, and we actually add our auth to the store. So now I'll save this, and down here we can export our auth as a reducer here. So we can say export default, and right here we'll say auth and then dot reducer. So we are exporting a reducer from this auth. So now this will be like our auth reducer, okay? And I'll save that. Now we can add our auth reducer to our Redux store. So if I come to index.js, this is where we configured the store. And with Redux Toolkit, it's so easy to configure the store. We just call this function or import this function from Redux Toolkit. We also import provider from React Redux so that we can bind React and Redux together. And then now right here, we are importing different reducers, products reducer, cart reducer. And when configuring the store, we are adding them to the store as reducers, okay? Pretty easy. And for now, you don't need to worry about this. You can like just ignore it. But if you wish to know more about it, you can check my complete shopping cart series. It's just another way of working with reducers. And then now down here, we are now calling our provider component, and we are passing the store. And now our app will be aware of our Redux store. So now let's just add right here our auth reducer. So I'll say let auth be our auth. And now right here, you'll see auth. And when I click, it's auto imported. But remember, this auth is simply our reducer. And that is why I have been renaming them to auth reducer. So I can just rename it to auth reducer as well. Auth reducer, and then now right here, auth reducer. And I'll save. And actually, I think we have an error here, so I need to include a comma and save. Cool. Now let's make sure that this is working. How can we do that? What we will do, we'll go to maybe one of the components. It can be even home, and from home we can make use of the use selector hook to access the state. So right here I can just actually duplicate this, and from here what we will return is state.auth. okay, state.auth. And now from here, instead of destructuring items and doing all this stuff, I'll just remove them and I'll say auth. Okay, and I can log this auth to the console. I can say console.log of auth. And what we should get now is our initial state. So we should see something like this at the console. At least we should see it. Okay, so at our app, I'll inspect and then go to the console, and we don't see anything. Let me refresh, and once we refresh, you'll see we have it. Okay, we have the email is empty, login error is empty, we have token is null, and yeah, our configuration is working. So that is working. Cool, I'm happy with that. Now the next thing that we will do is to create an action creator that will help us to register a user. So now how we will do that is just at the top of our slice here, we will use what we call create async thunk function. So right here, I'll import create async thunk first. So create async thunk, and then right here, I'll just say export, and then we will have const register user. Now this will be our action creator now, okay, for registering a user. And then we will make use of create async thunk. So right here, I'll invoke that. And now the first parameter for this one will be the action type. And this is how I can add the action type. I'll use the name of the slice here. So I'll say auth, and then stroke the name of our action creator, which is now register user. I'll actually like copy that and paste it here. Cool. So that is the first parameter. Now the second parameter is just a function. So I'll use an arrow function. And for this function, we can be able to accept two things. The first thing is the data that we will pass to register user when we dispatch it from a component. Okay, so in this case, I'll call that data values. And then now another thing is that we have what we call a thunk API as the second parameter. Now, one thing that we want from this thunk API is what we call reject with value. And this reject with value will allow us to add the error message to this register error piece of state here. Okay, so you'll see how this will work out. Now in here, I will use what we call the try and the catch block. So try, and then now here we will have catch, and for the catch will be simply for handling the error, and we can handle the error in there. Now in our try, this is where I want us to perform our HTTP request, and that is a call to the backend, and we will make use of Axios. So first of all, we need to import Axios right here. So I'll say import Axios from Axios. And then now right here, I can make a post request. Remember, registration is a post request. Axios dot post, and whatever we will pass as the first parameter is our API endpoint. Okay, and that API endpoint is HTTP, and then full colon 5000, and then forward slash I think API, and then forward slash I think register. But I want this to be like common for most requests. So what I can do at our slices here, I'll add another file, and I'll call this file api.js. And then in here, I'll just export const URL, and I'll set it to be equal to our API endpoint that we are passing in here. So I'll just copy this one up to API. Actually, I'll copy that and I'll paste it here. And this is actually wrong. because we should be having localhost right here, localhost, like that. Okay, and I'll save that. And now inside our auth we should be able to import that and make use of it here. So right here I'll just remove this and I'll make use of backticks, and then I'll make use of the money sign here to read our URL in a string. So I'll say URL. When I click on this one, it will be auto imported right there. And then now right here, we just need to append our register. So I'll say register. Okay. Okay, let's see. So it will be HTTP and then localhost 5000 stroke API, and then now we will be having stroke register, and that is our API endpoint. Cool. Let me save to auto format a bit here. Now this is our first parameter, the API endpoint when it comes to Axios, and the second parameter should be our values. It should be these values right here. Okay, so we can pass an object to specify the values. For the values, we'll be having the name, and the name will come from values dot name, and then we will have email. This will come from values dot email, and then we will have the password, and this will come from values dot password. That makes sense? Cool. So simply our post method here accept the endpoint and then the values. Cool. And this is an async action, so we will await it, and once it's fulfilled, what we will get back is a token, remember? So right here we will get back a token, and we can actually like set it to be equal to await axios.post and then that. And since we have used await here, we should make the entire of this function to be an async function by simply saying async right here. I'll save to auto format, and there we go. Pretty nice. Okay, now remember I told you that we will be storing this token at the local storage when we were setting up this one. So we can store it at the local storage right here. So we can say local storage dot, we have a method called set item, and now the key will be token and the value will be token dot data. So by the way, our token is actually available in token dot data, and now we can use this key to read that token from the local storage. Pretty nice. Now another thing that we need to do now down here is to return token dot data, and then now these will be automatically be added to our action payload. Now for the error, first of all, it's a good idea to like log it to the console. So we can log to the console error dot response dot data. When our action is rejected, for us to add that error to the state, we will make use of reject with value, and then now our action dot payload will be having that error. So now right here I'll say return reject with value, and I'll invoke it, and I'll pass our error dot response dot data. I'll copy that and paste it in here. So now we have created this particular action creator that performs a HTTP request to the backend. We register a user, we get back a token, and now this token should be available in our action.payload when handling the state. And also in case of an error, we are adding the error to action.payload so that we can also add it to state. So now let's come here to extra reducers. So right here, what we will do, instead of passing this object, I'll pass a function like this, and this will be an arrow function. And right here, we'll have access to the builder. And this is an object provided by our Redux Toolkit. And now using this object, we have a method. So builder.addCase. And for the first case is we will handle our register status. And then we will have dot pending. Okay. And that is the first parameter for this add case method. And then now the second parameter is an arrow function or a callback function. So we'll have a callback function, and this callback function have access to state, and also it have access to action. And now at action.period is where I was telling you our token will be added. And for the state, we can just update this state right here. It has access to this initial state. Cool. We can just like terminate this with a semicolon. Now we can duplicate it 2 more times. We will have register status dot fulfilled, yeah, and then we will have rejected. So these are automatically being dispatched for us, these actions, okay? And then when it's pending, it's the moment that it's making a request to the backend. When it's fulfilled is when we have actually like gotten a response from the backend. When it's rejected is when we have an error, okay? So let's start with pending, and all we will do for pending is that we will update the register status to pending. So right here we can just return, and I return what we are returning will be our state, okay? So right here what I return is I spread the state, and I'll use a comma, and now I can update register status right here to pending, just like that. And then that is for pending. For fulfilled, so what we will do is that we'll perform a simple check to see whether we have action.period. So right here I'll say if action.period exists. So action.period is having our token, okay? If action.period exists, then we will be able to decode that token and then update the state. Else, we will just return the state. So return the state. So I'm doing this just to avoid error in case the token does not exist. So now right here, we will return again. We are supposed to return the state right here. So I'll spread the state like that. And then we are supposed to update our token to be action.period like that. And then we will update the name. We will as well update the email and the ID. But for us to do all that, we need to decode our token. Our token is available in action.period. The moment we returned token.data, that is added to action.period when that particular action is fulfilled. So right here, before we proceed to return, we should decode the token using JWT decode. So we actually need to install that package, the JWT decode. So open up your terminal here and use the one that you are not running anything, and I'll say npm I, and what I will install is JWT-decode for decoding our JWT token. So I'll hit enter to install that. And then at the very top, I can be able to import JWT decode from JWT decode. So right here, I'll say import, and I'll say JWT decode, and this should come from JWT decode. There we go. So it's installed successfully. And then now down here, we can decode our token like this. So we can say const user will be equal to, remember what we are getting back is our payload from the token, and that includes the name, the email, the ID. So I'll simply call that data user because it's our user data, and then I'll call JWT decode and I'll pass the token in here, and our token is available in action.payload, just like that. And now using this user, we can be able to update the state here. Name will be user.name, and then email will be user.email. ID _ID will be user dot underscore ID. And also we should update our register status. So I'll say the register status now right here is successful. So I'll say success, just like that. Cool. Now that is for when our request for creating a user is successful. When we get an error, then we should handle that error at our reject here. So in here, we will return the state. So I'll spread the state and I'll use a comma and I'll set the register status here to rejected. And then we will update the error. So register error. And now remember the error will be available in action.payload because we made use of reject with value at the top. And now what we should do next is to actually dispatch this particular action creator from our form. So now I'll go ahead and create a register component. So in our components, I can categorize auth in a folder. So I'll add a new folder called auth. Inside the auth folder, I can add a new file called register.jsx. In here, I can create a stateless functional component and I'll call it register. And for now, I don't care if the form is pretty or not. I just want us to handle the logic. And then after that, yeah, we can make the form look pretty using styled components actually. So right here, I'll just go ahead and create a form. And for this form, I'll start by having a h2. I will call it register. And in here, we will have an input, type text, and we won't have name, we won't have ID, but we will have a placeholder. And for now, I don't want to enter anything for this input so that I duplicate it another time. Actually, we should be having 3. And the first one will be having our name. The second one will be having our email. The third one will be having our password. And then we will also have a button. And for the button, we can just say register for now. Now, for the password, type here will be password. Okay. And then this is type email. So this is good because for default validation, this is text. Cool. Now we have a form. Now let's add a path for this one. We will go to app.js and we will create a route. So before our not found or after our cut here, we will create a route and we will give it a path of register. And then right here, we will have element. We will call the register here. Register. When I click on this, it's auto imported and I do like that. And then we cross this route at the end like that. I save. Okay, now we have a route. So if we go to our online shop, so register status is not defined. This is route actually. Route. Then where is the register status coming from? Authorized register status is not defined. So let's check line 43 for our slice. So that is authorized line 43 right here. And we have register status is not defined. Okay, this one. Oh, yeah, I saw where the issue is. So this is not supposed to be register status, but this should be the name of our action creator. So I'll copy this register user, and I should replace register status here. The first one is this one with register user dot pending, the name of the action creator, this one as well, and also this one right here. I will save, and let's come back, let's refresh, and cannot read property undefined reading type. So the issue is that for this one it's not reject but rejected. Okay, so where we have register user dot reject, it's not reject, it's rejected. I'll save that. Sorry for these issues. We always like have bugs, and I'm sorry for that. Okay, so we have our shop now working, but now when we go to register here, we get our agree form. But at least we have a form, so we can enter a name, email, and password. But let's use the use state hook to get the value and update the value of this form. Okay, so in our register here, we should import the use state hook. So I will import the use state from React, and then right here I will say const user, and set user will be equal to use state. I will invoke it, and I'll make use of an object. The name initially will be an empty string. The email initially will be an empty string, and the password initially will be an empty string. Okay, and now I want us to update this state whenever we type on our input fields. So what we should do, we should fire up an onChange event. So right here I'll say onChange, and we will call an arrow function which have access to the event object. And now right here I can call set user, and I invoke it. I pass our different properties, that is, we spread the user, that is, and then we update a specific property. The first one is the name, so right here we will update the name to be e.target and then .value. I will save. So this is how we are updating the name. So I'll copy that, and this will be similar for this one and for this one. Let me save to auto format, but in this case we will be updating the email, and then in this case we will be updating the password. I'll save. Cool. Now right here I can come and log console.log of user to make sure that we are updating those piece of states. So right here I can actually say user full colon and then comma user. I'll save. Let's see if we can do that. I'll come back, and now we have user with name and email and password as empty, but when I start typing name here, Chaoo, then it's updating Chaoo with every input. Email, it's updating as well. Password, it's updating the password. Cool. Now we are able to get the values from our form, and all we need to do is to send them or dispatch them to the backend. Cool. How do we do that? First of all, on submit, when we click this button, it will automatically submit this form. So right here we can say on submit, when during the submitting of this form, let us call this function handle submit. Okay, and then now right here we don't have the function yet, so let's define it. Const handle submit will be equal to an arrow function, and this arrow function will accept an event, and then we can use that event to prevent the form default, which is refresh. So we will avoid refresh, so prevent default, and then we invoke it like that. And now right here in here is where we are supposed to perform the dispatch of this register action creator. How do we do that? We just make use of a hook. So I'll import use dispatch. So actually this is import use dispatch, and this is from React Redux, and then we should initialize that. So I'll say const dispatch will be equal to use dispatch, and we invoke it. Okay, now we can make use of this dispatch to dispatch our register here action creator, and you'll note that we are also exporting it, so we'll be able to access it. So now right here we are just supposed to say dispatch, we invoke that, and we now call our action creator here, which is register user. So when I click on it, it's auto imported. We invoke it and it's accepting a value, and the value here is now our user, which will be having the name, the email, and the password. So right here we pass in the user. Now when we click this button, it will submit our form and it will dispatch register user. We will pass the user, and now this register user will be able to accept that user right here as values. Okay, and then we can be able to get values.name, values.email, values.password. And if you want it to be like what can I say, consistent, you can update the values here to user. It doesn't matter whether you change it or not. And now we will be able to make this HTTP request and be able to save the user to the database, get back a token, and add that token to the state. So actually I'll save that. And then let us be able to access the state, the auth state. So at the home component, I think we already did that. So I'll just like cut these actually, and I'll make use of it in the register. But now we should import use selector from React Redux. So use selector, and from the home component, I'll also like copy the console log. I'll cut that, and I will remove the, actually I'll let it stay that way. So I'll just go ahead and save, and then I'll come here and paste the log right there, so that we see if we are actually getting the token, decoding it, and getting our user logged in. So I'll go ahead and save. Okay, now let us try to register a user. And we actually already registered a user, by the way, if I can remember. So let us try to use the same credentials and see if we will get back an error. So I'll say chaocharles.com, and then I'll use the same. This is supposed to be name, so I'll copy that and make it to be the email here. But for the name, just Chaoo. And for the password, I'll make it to be this one. And remember, we used Postman in the last video to register a user with these credentials. So we should get a message like user already exists. So I'll go ahead and click register. And right here, we get a bad request for user already exists. So perfect. We are making a request to the backend. Now, let us use a different email. Like, let me use Chaoo Charles. And now when I click this one, we should be able to get the user logged in. So we should update the auth state. So I'll go ahead and register. And once I do that, we don't actually see the console log that we included right here. But let's go to application, and right here you'll see we are getting the token. Okay, and we can be able to decode this token. Can I be able to copy that token out of it? Yes, I'll copy that. Then I'll go to JWT, and down here I'll paste it. And now at the email, you'll see we have chaocharles@gmail.com, and then Chaoo here. And these are the details that we have used here. So we are being able to register the user. Only that I'm not getting that piece of state being logged to the console. And when I refresh, you'll see that we are reading the token now from the local storage, and then these are empty because we are not loading the user when we refresh, but this is working. We are successfully registering the user to the database. Now the next thing that we can do is that we can show the error message down here. So after our button, we can do this. We can have access to the auth state, and then we can say dot register user, and if this is rejected, so remember we have access to auth state and we have this property. Actually it's not register user but register status. Register status can be pending, can be fulfilled or rejected. So if it's rejected, we can be able to show a message. So right here I can include a p tag, and what I should display is the error. So we can say auth dot register error, like that. Else we should display null. I will save. Cool. And then this one can be conditional, like we will perform a similar check. So I can actually copy this and include it inside our button, but now we will be checking for if the status is pending. If the status is pending, then the first thing that we will show right here is the text that we will show is submitting, else the text that we will show is register. So I'll save and let's see if this is working. So I'll come back. Let me use already existing details. Chaoo, right here, chaoo at gmail.com, and then the password, it doesn't matter, but I'll go ahead and register. And look, we get user already exists, and right here we are getting user already exists as the error message. So we'll set it to look red later on. And yeah, this is pretty awesome. Another thing is that we shouldn't be able to see the password there. So at our input, the type is password, not password. Cool. Now this is hidden. Cool. Now that is register. And the next thing that we will do is to make our form look pretty, and then we'll move on to login. Now I want us to style our form, and for that I will use styled components. So right here I can say npm I styled hyphen components, like that. So I'm installing styled components, and don't worry if you don't know about styled components, we will go in a step-by-step manner. So the first thing is that we want to use it both in register and login. So what I'll do, inside auth, I'll add a new file and I'll call it styled form, styledform.jsx. Inside the styled form, we will import styled from styled components, like that. Let me just minimize this one. And now right here I can create a component which is styled. That is why it's called styled component, and we'll say export const styled form, which will be equal to styled, which we are importing from styled components here. And then we can create any element. In this case we are creating a form, and then I use backticks, and amazingly in here I can use any styles that I want, CSS styles. And we have an extension for styled components, so you can search for it for syntax highlighting. Let me show you styled. Yeah, it's called styled components. Is it snippets? No, it's called VS Code styled components. This is syntax highlighting for that. So right here we can set the max width for our form to be 350px, and then I'll set the width to be 100%, and then I'll set the margin top and bottom will be 2 rem, left and right will be auto, so that it's at the center auto. And I'll actually first save this, and then we can be able to bring in these styled components into register. So I'll actually just make use of it. Now instead of saying form, I'll say styled form, and I click this one, it's auto imported from that file. Cool. Now when I save this, we should actually be having some changes going on our form. And let me maximize this one, and there we go. Now it's at the center here, so it's working. Cool. Now let's add more styling at our styled form. One cool thing is that we can nest the styles. So I can select H2, which is inside our form, and I can give it some margin to the bottom of 1 rem. Cool. And then in here we can select the button, and also we can select the inputs. So button and input, and we can style both of them. We will give them a height of 35px, and then we will give a width of 100%, and then we will give a padding of about 7px will do, and then outline will be none. Border radius of 5px will be good. Then we can set a border of 1px solid, 1px solid. Then the color will be RGB and 220, 220, 220. And then what else can we do? We can add some margin to the bottom of 1 rem. Once I save, let's see what we have. Look, now we have some input fields. Very nice, awesome. And we also have a button. User already exists. Now this is looking much better, but let's add some text when this is on focus. So this is a pseudo selector, and this is how you can do it. So you can just say end full colon focus, and I'll say border to be 1px solid, and we change the color RGB to be, I didn't want it to be that one, I want it to be 0, then 208, and then 255. That bluish color will be awesome. And then for the button, when we hover over it, I want it to have cursor of pointer. So what I'll do, I'll select button individually down here, button, and I'll set the cursor here to pointer, and on focus I don't want it to have a border, so I'll copy that, paste it here, and set border to none. None. Awesome. I'll save. And now when I come back, now look, when we are on focus, we have that nice color, and when we hover over this one and click, it has the cursor here, and the cursor is pointer, that is, and it doesn't have a border. Now let's tell this text that is down here so that it actually looks like an error. Okay, so it's just a paragraph. So we give it a font size of small font of 14px, then we change color to red, and that is all the styles that we need for that. So when I save that, and now look, user already exists, and I'm happy with that. Awesome. Okay, now the other thing that we can do is to add the log in and register and also log out at our navbar. So let's go on to the navbar. So I'll go to the navbar. Then this was our navbar, and after our links here, we are going to add those links to different stuff. So we will perform a check. If user is logged in, then we will want to show a logout. If they are logged out, then we want to show a login and register. So first of all, let's get auth from user selector here. So we return state.auth here, and then we get our auth here. So we are not destructuring, but we are getting auth directory. And if we have auth._id, then that means we are logged in. So right here, we will perform a check. So I'll say tab, then auth, okay, not caps, but small caps, auth._id. If this exists, this means we are logged in. Therefore, if we are logged in, we should show a logout text, and that text should actually have an on-click event for logging out the user. So again, I'll use styled components, and for styled components, you can even use it on this file. That is the cool thing about styled components. I can say styled to be from styled components, and I separated these since I wanted to use it both on register and also login, but in this case I'm using this only on this file. So just after our navbar, we can create a component for logout. So I can say const logout. This is a styled component that is to be equal to styled, and then here dot div. So it is a div. We use backtick. We set color to white since our navbar is black, and then we set the cursor to pointer. I'll save that. Actually, I'll take this logout, and if the user is logged in, we show a div. Now this logout, so I'll call it logout like that, and in here we will say log out or logout without the camel case. And else, that means that the user is logged in, and what we will show is two things. We will show the register and also the login. So right here we are going to create a styled components for the two. So right here I can say const auth links will be equal to styled dot div. We use backticks, and in here this is a div which will be the container for logging and logout. So right here I'll use it all the links, and what we will have right here is a link, and this is a component from React router DOM. So we should actually be importing it like this, and we will link to the first one. We will link to login. So we can say stroke login, and we will say login, and then the other one we will link to register. So link to stroke register, and right here we will say register. Okay, and then for these orderings, I want to select these register. So since these other links is apparent to link and link, these links are actually A tags. I want to select the last child, and for the last child we will add some margin left so that we have some spacing between them. This is what I mean. I'll select A in here, and then I'll say and last child, and what we will do, we will add margin to the left of 2 rem, and I'll save. So yeah, let's see what we have. So I'll go right here, and look, right now we are not logged in, and we can see login and register, but we cannot see logout. When we click login, this will show nothing because we don't have the login component, but when we click register, this is showing register. Now once we are logged in, we will actually want to log out the user, and once we are logged in also, we want to secure this route and redirect the user to the shopping cart. So since when we register, we are automatically being logged in, let's go back to the register component and complete it. So the first thing that I will do is that I'll import use effect. So use effect, and just after our console log here, I'll call our use effect, and this will be loaded when it will be executed when our component first renders and when the dependencies of this particular use effect changes. So I'll pass an arrow function in here, and I'll perform a check. If auth and then ._id exist, what we want to do is to navigate the user from this component. So we will navigate the user to the cart. Okay, navigate in small, but we haven't defined this navigate. So actually I'll remove this navigate from React Router DOM, and I'll make use of the use navigate hook, and then I'll initialize it here, const navigate to be equal to use navigate, and I invoke it. Now if this exists, then we will take the user to the cart, and now right here we should pass an array of dependencies. So we want to run this again whenever our auth _id changes. So if it's null, we try to run this. If it has an ID, then we run it also. And then just to avoid an error, a warning about this navigate, we can just add it here, but it won't actually do anything, just to avoid a warning of missing dependency. So these are dependency, these are dependency. Then I'll go ahead and save. So let's register another user. We will be automatically be logged in, and therefore we will be taken away from this particular component or route. So I will add a name. I'll just use my name again, and then I'll use an email with 3 O's. I haven't used that, at gmail.com. Then I'll use the password as that. I'll paste, register, submitting, and immediately we are taken out of there. And now look, we have this as logout, and we don't see the other links. And now right here we can check out. And then now right here, if we try to go to register, we can't. Actually we can. Oops, my bad. So we shouldn't be able to access this register since we are already logged in. But I know the issue is that we are not loading the user. So once we refresh the page, that auth status is lost. So I should actually show you how to load a user. Okay, let's do that. Let's load a user. So to load a user, we need to go to the auth slice, and we need to add a reducer right here. So I'll enter here, and then I'll say load user. So this load user has access now to state, and also it has access to action, and we can be able to handle the state in here. So what we should do, we should access the token. So I'll say const token, which is available in state.token. So the state has the token because it's being able to get it from the local storage. Okay, this one. So now we have this token right there, and we can perform a check. Does this token exist? So if this token actually exists, what we want to do is to decode that token. So I can say const user will be equal to JWT decode, and we pass in the token. Okay, and then what we will return is the state here, which will look like this: state token, then we will have the name, email, ID. I'll copy that, and here at the return I'll paste it there. And now we should also change the user loaded to true. So I'll set this to true, and the token here is not from action.payload but from the state. So I'll set token to be token, this one. Okay, now we have this particular reducer for handling the state, but now this load user is automatically being made an action. Like, we can be able to dispatch it so that we update the state like this. So how we can export that action from this file is that at the very bottom here, we can say export, and then we will have const load user, and then comma log out user. So we will be having another one for logging out the user, log out user. Okay, what am I doing? Logout user, and these will come from auth dot actions. So these are automatically created for us, and we can export them like this, depending on the name that we include right here. So this is load user. Also, let's add the logout. Okay, and note that we are adding these at reducers because we are not performing any HTTP request. And if you are performing any HTTP request, what you do, you create the action creator at the top here, and then you handle the state in extra reducers. So that is like the difference. Okay, cool. Now after this one, after this comma, I'll have logout user, and it has access to state again, and also access to action. And when we log out the user, we want to delete the local storage, that is the token from the local storage. So local storage dot remove item, and right here we will pass the token. So we remove that token, and also what we will do, we will reset the state. So we will return right here, we spread the state, and we reset everything in the state. And how we will do that is by just copying what we have here, copy, and then I'll come here and paste it. I'll save to auto format. Also, we should reset the token. So token now will be empty, like that. Cool. Now when we log out the user, we are removing the token from the local storage and resetting the state. Now we have created two actions, load user and logout user. Let's make use of them. Let's come to index.js, and you can see from here I was dispatching products fetch. I was also dispatching get totals. Let's do the same. You can make use of a use effect, or you can do it from here. Yeah, when the application loads. So let's duplicate that, store.dispatch, and now right here I'll just call load user. It will be auto imported, and we should pass null because it doesn't expect anything right there. It doesn't expect any parameters, so I'll just pass null. I'll save, and once these loads, let me refresh. Look, we are automatically logged in because we have a token at the local storage. So if you inspect, go to application right here, since we have this token at the local storage, this token is automatically being added to the state. And now from the state, we can be able to get that token from the state, decode it, and update the state. So if we have an ID, auth.id, then we are logged in. So now, since we are logged in, if we try to access register, then we can't access it. We are redirected back here. Cool. Now another thing is that we have created one for logout, an action for logout right here. So local storage.remove item and clear the state, but we need to make use of it at our logout here. So let's go to navbar and logout a user. So at the navbar, this is where we head logout, and all we will do, we will add an onClick event, and we will have an arrow function, and in this arrow function we can do two things. First of all, we will dispatch. I'll invoke that, and then what we are dispatching is log out. I'm not getting a suggestion for this one. First of all, let's define dispatch. To define dispatch, we need to import it, use dispatch from React Redux. Let's initialize it. Const dispatch will be equal to use dispatch. We invoke it, and then right here, hopefully now, since we don't have that issue of not having dispatch, we will get a suggestion for log out. So here we have logout user. Now that will be auto imported from our auth trace, and then we can invoke it and pass null. Okay, since we don't have any parameters that it's expecting. So that is the first thing. The second thing, let's tell the user that we have logged out using toast. So react toastify, I'll import toast from react toastify, and then I'll say toast.warning. So this will be a yellow toast, and we will tell the user you have logged out. Okay, and then the second parameter, we will position our toast message to be at bottom left. I'll save. Now let's try to log out the user. So we are logged in, click logout, and we are logged out. And once we are logged out, we should show a different button right here with a different color, so that when we click on this one again, we are taken to login. So let's fix this. That is in our cart component. So I'll go to cart component. I know there are many moving parts, but for it to be complete, we have to do all this. And from here, we will need to have the navigate. So right here, I'll say const navigate to be equal to use navigate from React Router DOM. That will be auto imported, and we initialize that. And then we will go down to where we have our checkout button. Yeah, continue shopping. Checkout button is here. And for this one, let's go ahead and make use of auth. So I'll say auth._id. That means that if we have the ID, we are logged in. Then if we are logged in, we show this checkout button. So I'll just copy that. Actually, I'll cut it and paste it here. Else, we will show a different button that will redirect us to the login page. So right here, I'll include another button. But now for this, I'll say login to checkout. And let me save to auto format. And then now we need to do more in here. First of all, I'll give it a class name. You can use styled components if you want, but since we already styled this button using a class name, I can just use a class name. You can use different methods. It's really up to you. So I'll say cat login, like that. That is the class name. And then I'll have an onClick event. So onClick, and what we will have here is an arrow function which will return our navigate, so that we navigate the user to login. So I'll save that, and let's tell this button to look differently. So all our class names are in app.css, and we can try to look for our button, our cat button. Where is it? Cat summary, cat checkout button. So we have it here. the background color for this one is this one. And what I will do, I'll just come down here and I'll select our cat login button. So I'll say dot cat checkout, and then dot cat hyphen login, and then I'll include the styles in here. I'll change the background color to yellow, and then I'll change the color to black. I'll save. And auth is not defined. So in our cart right here, we should define auth. So for that, I don't think we need these auths, right? Why is it here? I remove that, and we will make use of the use selector hook to return auth, and we will set now here auth to be that auth. Enter. Now let's see. Look, now we have a yellow button, which when we click, it's taking us to login, but we haven't implemented login. So this is the last thing that we are going to do in this particular tutorial. So next, let's implement login. So now I want us to implement the last bit of our application here. And let me close navbar, let me close cart, let me close app CSS, app.js, APIs, let me close all of these. We remain with the styled form, register, and auth. So what I will do is that we are going to start by creating the action creator. And since we already did this, then we can just duplicate it. I will use Alt Shift bottom arrow to duplicate that. And then we will say login user. Login user. We will change the name here to auth stroke login user. And this name is for the like the dispatched action. If you want to learn more, just check out the complete shopping cart. I explain this stuff in details. And then right here we will get the user details. Reject with value. We will perform a HTTP request to axios.post, and then now right here it's from stroke login, and we will accept email and password for login. So we remove the name, we set the token to the local storage, we return the token, we log the error, we return the error. So yeah, that is it. Now let's go down here and handle the state. So where we have build case for register pending, register user fulfilled and rejected. So I'll click here, and then I'll click at the very end, and I will duplicate all these at the bottom. And now we can go into one by one, into each of them, and make the necessary changes. So the first one, now this is not register, it will be login. So actually what I can do, I can just use Control D to select all the register up to the bottom here, delete them, and then say login. Okay, and now let's also go through them. So here we have builder.add case, login user.pending. When the status is pending, then we will show login status here to be pending. Okay, that is good. When it's fulfilled, we will check the action period for the token. If it exists, we decode the user from that token. Then we update the state like this, and we change the login status to success. Else, we just return the state. The last one, if it's rejected, then we have the error at action.period. And this is the logging status and the login error. And these states are already defined at our initial state. Logging status, logging error. So we have actually already completed the auth trace for the login right here. We have created the action creator. We have handled the state down here. Now the next thing is to just dispatch this particular action creator and be able to log in the user. For that, we need a form. And right here at the auth, I'll go ahead and create the login component. So I'll say login.jsx. Again, I'm a lazy person, so I'll come to register, copy everything and paste it here. And we can change now stuffs. Yeah, so I'll select this register here and I'll change it to login. Now here we will import login user instead of register user. Login user. From that we log in, then we need all these we need them, we need all these, they are similar there, but now here we have a difference. We don't want the name, so we remove the name. The under submit, we will dispatch login user and we include the user. Styled form will be the same, under submit will be the same. We change the heading for this one to login. The input for the name, we don't need it during login, so we remove that and we remain with email and password. And yeah, all of these will be the same. But now here for the error, we will show the error for login status, auth.login status, and submitting. Now here instead of register, we will have login, and then now here auth.login status, login. So if it's rejected, we will show the auth.login error. And then now right here, instead of exporting register, we export login. Pretty the same, pretty similar to our register, just some few difference. Now all we need to do is to go to our app.js. We add a route for login. So I'll duplicate that one. Now here instead of register, we will say login. And then instead of register here, we will say login, and make sure to click this one to auto import it, and I'll save. Now we have completed login, believe you not. Let's go to this, let's refresh, and look at login. We are able to load this form with email, password, and the text here is login. And we can switch between now login and register like this. So let's log in a user. We already have a registered user, chaoo@gmail.com. We include a correct password. First of all, let's use a wrong one. Login, submitting, invalid email or password. Let's use less characters. Login, submitting, password length must be at least 6 characters long. Let's use the wrong email here format. Login, email must be a valid email. So that is working. Now let us actually use the correct credentials, login, and we are logged in. And now right here we have checkout, and we can continue shopping, and our auth system is complete. How amazing is that? Now when we click log out, we are logged out. Now this changes to login to checkout. When I click that, we are taken to login. Yes, I have delivered what I promised, and you should leave a like for that and also subscribe to the channel. Now if you want me to continue to this one and show you how to process payment with Stripe, please make sure to like the video, leave a comment, let this video blow up, and let me get more than 100 likes, and that way you'll motivate me to actually complete this particular simple online shop and make it to be a complete e-commerce. And as we proceed, we might add an admin dashboard to manage products, to manage users, to add products, and to make this to be a complete thing. Okay, so give me the psych, okay? And that is it for this video, and I'll be seeing you on the next one.